The stars looked different today. Captain Han Ji-ho stood on the bridge of the Defiant Dawn and watched the view screen with quiet concern. Something was wrong. The sensors had detected movement in the outer rim, massive signatures that didn't belong in human space. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," said the communications officer. Her voice was steady, but Han could hear the tension underneath. "It's not one of ours." "Put it through," Han ordered. The face that appeared on screen was reptilian, with golden scales and vertical pupils that seemed to pierce through the distance between ships. "Human vessel, Defiant Dawn. You will proceed to coordinates we are transmitting now. Your captain will board our flagship." This is not a request. The transmission ended before Han could respond. He looked at his tactical officer, Commander Lee Doyon, who was already pulling up long-range scans. What Doyon found made his face go pale. "Captain, there are over 300 ships out there. Varelian Dominion markings. They're in formation around New Busan Colony." 300 ships. The entire human fleet numbered only 84 vessels, and most of those were exploratory craft with minimal weapons. The Varelians were one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. They had been around for thousands of years, while humanity had only been in space for 80. Ambassador. Park Murray entered the bridge. She was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "They have no right to be here. Human space is sovereign territory under Council law." "I don't think they care about Council law right now," Han said quietly. He turned to his crew. "Set course for those coordinates, and send a message to Earth. Tell them everything." The journey to the Varelian flagship took 2 hours. Han spent that time reviewing everything humanity knew about the Varelians. It wasn't much. They were proud, ancient, and believed strongly in hierarchy and order. They had never been friendly to humanity, but they had never been openly hostile either. Until now, the eternal hierarchy was massive. It dwarfed the Defiant Dawn like a whale next to a minnow. As Han's shuttle approached, he could see dozens of other Varian warships in formation around it. Each one could probably destroy his ship with a single salvo. Ambassador Park sat beside him in the shuttle. "Let me do the talking, Captain. Diplomacy is my job," agreed Han said. "But I'll speak if I need to." They were escorted through the Varelian ship by armored guards who towered over them. The corridors were dark and cold, lit by strips of red light. Everything felt designed to intimidate. It was working. The council chamber was enormous. Supreme Commander Vrelix sat on a raised platform, surrounded by dozens of subordinate officers. He was larger than the others, his scales darker, his presence overwhelming. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber. "Captain Han Ji-ho, Ambassador Park. My Ray, you represent a young species that has spread rapidly through this region of space. Too rapidly. You have drawn the attention of powers far greater than yourselves." Ambassador Park stepped forward. "Supreme Commander, humanity has violated no laws. We have colonized only uninhabited worlds. We have honored all treaties in silence." Relix's voice was not loud, but it cut through her words like a blade. "You misunderstand your position. This is not a negotiation. This is an announcement." He gestured, and a holographic display appeared, showing human colonies and Earth itself. "Humanity has been judged by the Galactic Council. Your species is deemed too unpredictable, too aggressive, too chaotic. You require guidance. The Varelian Dominion has been chosen to provide that guidance." Han felt his stomach drop. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that humanity will now become a protectorate of the Dominion. All human military vessels will be decommissioned. All colonies will accept Varelian governors. Your homeworld's government will answer to ours. These terms are not negotiable." Ambassador Park's face went red. "That's enslavement." "The Council would never approve." "The Council has approved," Vrelix said coldly. "Quietly, efficiently. Your species has no allies willing to oppose us. You have 72 hours to comply. If you do not, we will ensure compliance by force." Dr. Choi Hanna, the Defiant Dawn's chief scientist, had joined them. She spoke up for the first time. "Why? What have we done to deserve this? Vrelix looked at her with something that might have been pity. You have done nothing wrong. But you are young, and you grow quickly. In another century, you might become a threat. The Dominion eliminates threats before they emerge. It is simply the natural order. Han felt anger building in his chest. He had spent his entire adult life in space. He had seen humanity reach for the stars with hope and wonder. They had made mistakes, yes, but they had also achieved incredible things. And now this ancient species wanted to crush them before they could reach their potential? Ambassador Park tried again. Supreme Commander, please, there must be another way. Let us prove ourselves. Give us a chance to 72 hours, Vrelix repeated. That is all the chance you require. Submit or be destroyed. Those are your options. Chamber fell silent. Han could feel the weight of hundreds of Vrelian eyes on him. He could feel the weight of history, of all humanity's hopes and dreams balancing on this moment. He thought of Earth, of the colonies, of the children growing up among the stars, who deserved to live free. He thought of all the humans who had died to build something new out here in the dark. They hadn't died so their descendants could kneel to alien masters. Ambassador Park turned to him. Captain, we should return to the ship. We need to contact Earth immediately. But Han wasn't moving. He stood there, looking up at Supreme Commander Vrelix. The Vrelian commander stared back, clearly expecting the humans to accept their fate. Han took a breath. When he spoke, his voice was clear and steady. No. The chamber erupted in shocked hisses and growls. Vrelix's eyes widened slightly. No, the Supreme Commander repeated, as if he had never heard the word before. We are not your subjects, Han said, his voice growing stronger. We are not your children. We are humanity. And we bow to no one. Vrelix stood from his throne. Even across the distance, Han could feel the rage radiating from him. You dare refuse? You who command a single ship against my fleet of 300? Yes, Han said simply. I dare. Then you choose death, Vrelix said. Not just for yourself, but for your entire species. Han met his gaze without flinching. Maybe, but we'll die free. That's worth more than living as your slaves. Ambassador Park grabbed his arm. Captain, please, but Han gently pulled away. He looked around the chamber at all the Vrelian officers, at their shocked faces, at their inability to comprehend what he was saying. You've conquered dozens of species, Han said. You've built an empire on fear and force. You think the universe bends to power? But you're about to learn something about humanity. We don't bend. We break before we bend. Vrelix's claws dug into his throne. You are dismissed. Return to your ship. Spend your final hours preparing for war. In 72 hours, the Vrelian Dominion will show you the cost of defiance. Han turned and walked toward the exit. Ambassador Park and Dr. Choi followed, both looking terrified. The Vrelian guards parted to let them through. As they walked back through those dark corridors, Park whispered urgently, Captain, what have you done? You've just declared war on the most powerful military force in the sector. No, Han said quietly. They declared war on us. I just refused to surrender before the first shot was fired. Back on the shuttle, Han looked out at the Vrelian fleet surrounding them. 300 warships against humanity's 84. It was suicide. It was hopeless. It was necessary. The shuttle returned to the Defiant Dawn as soon as Han was back on his bridge. He opened a channel to Earth. This is Captain Han Jiho. Inform the President that the Vrelians have given us an ultimatum. Submit to their control or face destruction. I have refused their terms. War is coming. We have 72 hours to prepare. He paused, then added, Tell everyone to get ready. Tell them humanity will not kneel. Tell them we fight. The transmission ended. Commander Li Doyan looked at his captain with a mixture of fear and pride. Sir, can we really win this? Han looked at the view screen, at the stars beyond, at the future that hung in the balance. I don't know, he admitted, but we're going to try. The emergency council room was packed. President Yoon Jie sat at the head of the table, her face carved from stone. Around her, the leaders of humanity's government argued and shouted. Some wanted to surrender. Others demanded they fight. Nobody seemed to agree on anything. "We have 84 ships," said Defense Minister Kim. "They have 300. This is mathematics, not politics. We cannot win." "Then what do you suggest?" snapped Admiral Kong Soman. "That we just give up? Hand our freedom to them on a silver plate." "I suggest we survive," Kim shot back. "Dead people aren't free either." President Yoon held up her hand. The room fell silent. She had been listening for 30 minutes without speaking. Now everyone waited for her decision. "Admiral Kang, what are our actual chances if we fight?" The Admiral didn't hesitate. "Honestly, Madam President, very small. The Vrillians have superior technology, superior numbers, and thousands of years of military experience. In a straight fight, they would destroy us in days." "But," Yoon prompted. She could hear the unspoken word. "But they're arrogant," Kong said. "Our intelligence officer on Subinhaz, B. In analyzing their fleet positions, they're arranged in a standard Varelian battle formation. Predictable. Expect us to surrender, so they're not even being cautious." She brought up a holographic display showing the Varelian fleet. "They rely heavily on centralized command systems. If we could disrupt their communications, cause confusion, use unconventional tactics, we might last longer than they expect." "Lasting longer doesn't mean winning," someone pointed out. "No, agreed," a new voice. Everyone turned to see Kim Tae-yang entering the room. He was young, barely 30, but he was humanity's brightest military engineer. "But it might give us something else. Time." He uploaded his own files to the display. "I've been working on Project Hounday, a weapons system that doesn't try to match Valayan technology, but works around it. Rail cannons using kinetic energy instead of plasma. Cheaper, faster to build, and with AI-assisted targeting, potentially very effective." "How many can you build in 72 hours? Yoon asked. "It's not enough," Tae-yang admitted. "But I can retrofit some of our existing ships, and I can train crews to use them effectively. It won't win the war, but it will make them bleed." The room was quiet. Everyone understood what was really being discussed. This wasn't about victory. This was about making the cost of conquest so high that maybe, just maybe, the Vrelians would reconsider. President Yoon looked around the table. "I need to know. If we fight, will Earth stand united?" "The colonies are already mobilizing," said Ambassador Park Murray, who had returned from the Defiant Dawn. "Captain Han's refusal has become a rallying cry. People are volunteering to fight. Civilian ships are offering themselves for military conversion. It's like nothing I've ever seen." "That's because they're scared," Minister Kim said. "And angry? But that won't last when people start dying." "Maybe not," Yoon said quietly. "But it might last long enough." She stood up. "Here's my decision. We fight. Not because we can win, but because surrendering means the death of everything we've built. The Vrelians will turn us into servants, into slaves in all but name. Our children will never know freedom." She looked at each person in turn. "I won't force anyone to fight, but I'm asking. Will you stand with me?" One by one, hands rose. Even Minister Kim, after a long moment, raised his hand. "Then we have work to do," Yoon said. "Admiral Kang, mobilize everything we have. Kim Tae-young, you have full authority and unlimited resources for your project. Ambassador Park, I need you to do something difficult." Park straightened. "Ma'am, contact every species in the galaxy. Bypass official channels if you have to. Tell them what's happening. Tell them that if the Vrelians can do this to us, they can do it to anyone." "The Council won't like that," Park said. "I don't care what the Council likes," Yoon said coldly. "They approved this attack. They're complicit. If we're going down, the whole galaxy is going to watch." Back on the Defiant Dawn, Captain Han Ji-ho was preparing for war. His ship wasn't designed for heavy combat, but Chief Engineer Nam Dae-yoon was working miracles. Every available space was being converted to weapons or shields. Dr. Choi Hannah came to his quarters. She looked exhausted. "I've been analyzing every bit of data we have on Vrelian ships. I think I found something." She showed him her research. Their shields operate on a harmonic frequency. They're incredibly strong, but there's a weakness. When they fire their main weapons, the shields have to recalibrate. For 0.3 seconds, they're vulnerable. 0.3 seconds, Han repeated. That's barely any time. It's enough if you're fast and you know where to shoot, Hannah said. And if you're willing to get close, very close. Han understood immediately. You're talking about knife fighting range. We'd have to get right up against them. Yes, it's dangerous. But it might be the only way our weapons can hurt them. Han pulled up tactical charts. He thought about conventional military doctrine, about everything he'd been taught in the academy. Then he threw it all away. The Varillians would expect humanity to fight by the rules. Maybe breaking the rules was their only chance. Get that information to every ship in the fleet, he said. And tell Admiral Kong I have some ideas she's not going to like. The 72 hours passed like a nightmare. On Earth, factories worked around the clock. Ships that had been used for mining or cargo were hastily fitted with weapons. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers faster than they could be processed on New Busan colony. Sergeant Ro Minho organized the defense. He had 2,000 Marines and 20,000 armed civilians. Against Vrelian shock troops, it wouldn't be enough, but he'd make them pay for every meter. Civilian pilot Na Yunjin brought her cargo ship, the Lucky Star, to the military depot. I hear you're converting ships for combat, she said. Mine's not much, but it's fast, and it's yours if you need it. Commander Bei Hun-woo, captain of the destroyer Iron Tiger and Han's oldest friend, sent a private message. Whatever happens, brother, I'm with you. To the end, the clock counted down. 3 days became 2, became 1, became hours. Throughout human space, people watched their screens and waited. Some prayed. Some cried. Some just held their families close. On the bridge of the Defiant Dawn, Han watched the timer reach 0. All ships. This is Captain Han. Battle stations. They're coming. The Vrelian fleet began to move. 300 warships advancing on New Busan in perfect formation. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Admiral Kong Saman commanded from Earth's flagship, the Indomitable. She had arranged humanity's 84 ships in a defensive sphere around New Busan. It looked pathetic compared to the Vrelian armada. All ships hold formation, she ordered. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. Supreme Commander Vrelix broadcast across all frequencies. His voice was cold and certain. Humans, you have chosen death over wisdom. So be it. The Varelian Dominion will show no mercy. Your species will be an example to all who dare defy the natural order. Captain Han responded, Then come and teach us your lesson, Vrelix. We're waiting. The Vrelian fleet opened fire first. The sky lit up with plasma bolts and energy beams. Human ships scattered, abandoning formation, moving in patterns that made no military sense. The Vrelians adjusted fire, confused by the chaos. Now, Han shouted, All ships, execute Plan Delta. What happened next had never been seen in galactic warfare. Human ships didn't try to match the Vrelians in firepower. Instead, they moved close, insanely close, using their smaller size and better maneuverability. They dodged and weaved, making themselves difficult targets. When a Vrelian ship fired, the nearby human vessels would instantly target the shooter, hitting them in that brief moment when their shields reset. It didn't always work. Human ships were dying, but Vrelian ships were dying too. On New Busan's surface, Sergeant Ro watched the space battle through his tactical display. They're actually fighting back, he whispered in amazement. They're actually hurting them. Beside him, a young private asked, Do you think we can win, Sergeant? Ro looked at the thousands of Vrelian ships still in orbit, at the dropships beginning their descent. He thought about lying. Instead, he told the truth. I don't know, kid, but we're going to try. That's all anyone can ask. The Battle of New Busan had begun. In space above the colony, humanity made its stand. They were outgunned, outmatched, and outnumbered, but they weren't alone. 3 ships appeared at the edge of the system, broadcasting everything that was happening to the entire galaxy. The Kelhari Federation, known throughout space for their strict neutrality, had come to witness. "Let them watch," Han said grimly, as another explosion rocked his ship. "Let everyone see. Let them see that humanity does not kneel." Round him, the battle raged. Ships burned. People died. But humanity fought on, and the galaxy was watching. The first week of fighting was hell. Captain Han Jiho had barely slept. His ship shook constantly from near misses and impacts. The Defiant Dawn's hull was scarred and burned. But somehow it still flew. Commander Li Doyan worked his tactical station like a musician playing an instrument. He had become brilliant at predicting Varelian attack patterns. "Captain, 3 enemy cruisers breaking formation. They're targeting the supply depot on New Bison's moon. Route them to the Iron Tiger," Han ordered. "Commander Bay knows what to do." The Iron Tiger was one of humanity's few true warships, a destroyer that had been designed for combat. Commander Bei Hunhua brought his ship around in a tight arc that would have torn apart most vessels. He positioned himself directly in the path of the 3 Varelian cruisers. "All power to forward shields," Bei ordered. "Weapons, wait for my mark." The Varelians fired. The Iron Tiger's shields lit up like a star, absorbing massive amounts of energy. Alarms screamed throughout the ship, but Bei ignored them. He waited until the Varelian shields reset, then gave the order, "Fire everything." The Iron Tiger's weapons tore into the lead cruiser at point-blank range. The Varelian ship exploded in a ball of fire. The other 2 cruisers tried to pull away, but it was too late. Bei's gunners had their range now. Another explosion. 2 Varelian cruisers destroyed. But the cost was high. Gah! The Iron Tiger was badly damaged, atmosphere venting from a dozen hull breaches. "This is Iron Tiger to all ships," Bei transmitted. "We've stopped the attack on the supply depot, but we're in bad shape. Pulling back for repairs." On the surface of New Busan, Sergeant Ro Minho heard the explosions in orbit and knew what they meant. The space battle was buying them time, but the Varelians were still landing troops. Thousands of them. His Marines were dug into the colony's industrial sector, turning factories and warehouses into fortresses. Ro walked among them, checking positions, offering encouragement. Many were young, barely out of training. Some were colonists who had never fired a weapon before last week. "Sergeant, they're coming," said Corporal Han Xiaon. She was a tough woman from Earth's military academy, one of his best soldiers. "Sensors show at least 5,000 troops advancing on our position." El Ro nodded. "Let them come close. Don't fire until you can see their eyes." The Varelian shock troops were terrifying. Each one stood over 2 meters tall, covered in powered armor that made them almost invulnerable. They carried plasma rifles that could melt through concrete. Against them, Ro's defenders had conventional weapons in desperation, but they also had Dr. Choi Hanna. The scientist had been trapped on New Busan when the fighting started. Instead of hiding, she had organized the colony's engineers and scientists. Together, they had built improvised electromagnetic pulse devices using mining equipment and salvaged parts. "EMP charges ready," Doctor reported one of her team. Hannah checked the positions on her tactical map. The Varelian troops were moving through the streets in standard formation, predictable, disciplined, following their doctrine exactly. "It's detonate in 3, 2, 1, now." The EMP devices exploded in sequence. Invisible waves of electromagnetic energy washed over the advancing Varelians. Their powered armor flickered and died. Their weapons went silent. For a moment, they stood confused in the street. "Now," Ro shouted. "Hit them now." His Marines and volunteers opened fire. The Varelians, stripped of their technological advantage, suddenly became vulnerable. They tried to retreat, but the humans pressed forward, using guerrilla tactics, ambushes, and traps. It was brutal. It was savage. And humanity was winning this small battle. But in space, the larger war continued to grind forward. Captain Han received casualty reports constantly. The destroyer, Morning Star, destroyed. The frigate, New Hope, crippled and adrift. The converted cargo ship Prosperity, sacrificed in a ramming attack that took out a Vrelian Battlecruiser. Now Yunjin, the civilian pilot, had become a legend. Her cargo ship Lucky Star was fast and maneuverable. She used it to run supplies to damaged vessels, to rescue survivors from destroyed ships, and occasionally to make attack runs on Vrelian formations. Lucky Star to Defiant Dawn, she transmitted. The cruiser Eternal Light is in trouble. They're surrounded by 4 enemy ships, and their engines are dead. Han checked his tactical display. The Eternal Light was one of their most important vessels, carrying advanced sensors that helped coordinate the fleet's movements. Losing it would be a major blow. "We're too far away," Commander Lee said quietly. "We can't reach them in time." "Then we'll make the time," Han decided. "All power to engines. Navigation, plot the fastest course, even if it takes us through that debris field." "Captain, that's too dangerous," the navigator protested. "One wrong move, and do it," Han ordered. The Defiant Dawn accelerated to dangerous speeds, weaving through the wreckage of destroyed ships, human and Vrelian alike. Each piece of debris was a potential collision that would end them. But Han's crew was good, and they were desperate. They reached the Eternal Light just as the Vrelian ships were moving in for the kill. Han positioned his ship between them and their target. "All weapons, fire at will. Give them everything we've got." It was a suicidal position. The Defiant Dawn was trading hits with 4 ships at once, but it bought time. Time for the Eternal Light to get their engines working again. Time for Commander Bay and the Iron Tiger to arrive with reinforcements. The battle turned into chaos. Ships fired at point-blank range. Wreckage filled the space around New Busan, and still, humanity held Supreme Commander Vrelix watched from his flagship with growing frustration. His reports showed that while the Vrelians were inflicting heavy casualties, they were also taking more losses than predicted. "Much more. These humans fight like animals," said one of his subordinates. "They have no discipline, no proper tactics. They just attack and attack." "No," Vrelix said slowly. "They fight like cornered prey, desperate and dangerous." He studied the tactical displays. "They know they cannot win, but they're trying to make us pay such a high price that we'll withdraw." "Will we, Commander?" Relix's eyes narrowed. "Never. We have committed too much. To withdraw now would make us look weak before the entire galaxy. We will destroy them no matter the cost." He ordered his second fleet to accelerate their arrival. 150 more ships were on the way. With them, the Vrelian advantage would become overwhelming. But reinforcements took time to arrive. And in that time, humanity made the Vrelians suffer. Commander Baehunhua and the Iron Tiger had become the tip of humanity's spear. Despite heavy damage, his ship kept fighting. He developed tactics that other captains copied, strategies that turned humanity's weakness into strange strengths. "We're smaller than them," he explained, in a fleet-wide transmission, "so we get close. We're weaker than them, so we don't fight fair. We're outnumbered, so we make every shot count. Remember, we don't have to destroy their entire fleet. We just have to make them wish they'd never come here." His words spread through the human fleet like fire. Morale, which should have broken after days of constant battle, somehow held. People found strength they didn't know they had. On the 6th day of fighting, Iron Tiger intercepted a Vrelian assault force heading for New Busan's main population center. 5 enemy ships against Bay's badly damaged destroyer. The smart move would have been to retreat and call for help. Instead, Bay attacked. "This is Commander Baehunwoo to all ships," he transmitted. "If we let them through, 20,000 civilians die. I won't let that happen." "Iron Tiger is engaging, Commander. Our shields are at 15%, his tactical officer warned. "Our weapons are overheating. One more hit to our engine section, and we're done."
Oh.
Bay smiled grimly. "Then we better not get hit. All power to engines. We're going to ram them, sir. You heard me? Ram them. If we're going down, we're taking them with us." The Iron Tiger accelerated directly at the largest Vrelian battlecruiser. The enemy ship tried to maneuver, but Bay was faster, more desperate, more willing to risk everything. At the last second, he fired every remaining weapon directly into the battlecruiser's bridge section. Then the Iron Tiger struck home. The explosion could be seen from New Bison's surface. Two ships locked together, tearing each other apart. The battlecruiser died instantly. The Iron Tiger broke into pieces. There were no survivors. Captain Han watched from the defiant dawn as his oldest friend died. He wanted to scream, to cry, to rage at the unfairness of it all. Instead, he keyed his fleet channel. This is Captain Han. Commander Bai Hunwoo has fallen. He saved 20,000 lives with his sacrifice. We will remember him. We will honor him. And we will keep fighting for him. For everyone we've lost, for humanity, around New Busan, the battle continued. 6 days had become 7, 8, 9. The Varelian Second Fleet was still days away. Humanity was exhausted, beaten, bloodied, but they had not broken. On the 10th day, something unexpected happened. A coded transmission reached the defiant dawn. It came from deep space, encrypted and carefully routed through multiple systems to hide its origin. Ambassador. Park decoded it and brought it to Captain Han. Her hands were shaking. Captain, you need to see this. Han read the message. It was short. You have caught their attention? Keep fighting. The galaxy is watching. You are not as alone as you think. A friend on the council. Han looked up at Park. Someone on the Galactic Council is helping us. It seems so. But they can't reveal themselves openly. Why not? Because the same thing that's happening to us could happen to them, Park said quietly. The Vrelians are powerful. Most species are afraid to oppose them. But our resistance, our refusal to surrender, we're making other species think. We're showing them that the powerful can be defied. Han looked at the stars on his view screen. Out there across the galaxy, people were watching humanity make its stand. Some probably cheered for them. Others might fear them. But everyone was watching, and we keep fighting, he said. We keep showing them. We keep proving that freedom is worth any cost. The Battle of New Busan entered its second week. The killing continued. 3 months. The war had been raging for 3 months. Earth's fleet was down to 42 operational ships. New Busan was in ruins but still defended. Across human space, colonies prepared for the worst. But the Vrelians had paid a terrible price. 98 of their ships destroyed. Their casualties numbered in the hundreds of thousands. Supreme Commander Vrelix had requested reinforcements and they had arrived. 150 fresh ships joined his battered fleet, yet something had changed in the galaxy. The war that was supposed to last 3 days had stretched into months. Humanity, that young and supposedly weak species, was still fighting. The impossible was happening in front of everyone's eyes, Captain.
Oh.
Seojin commanded humanity's only stealth reconnaissance ship, the Shadow Striker. It was a small, experimental vessel designed to avoid detection. For 3 months, she had been running dangerous missions deep behind Varelian lines.
Captain.
I've intercepted another encrypted transmission, said her communications officer. Lemuna, the young woman, had proven to be a genius at breaking codes. You're going to want to see this. Oh read the decoded message and felt her blood run cold. Get this to Captain Han immediately. Emergency priority. The message reached the Defiant Dawn within the hour. Captain Han Ji-ho read it 3 times, making sure he understood correctly. Then he called an emergency meeting with Admiral Kang and Ambassador Park. The Vrelians have been planning this for years, he said, sharing Captain O's intelligence. We're not their only target. They have similar operations planned for 6 other species. Young civilizations that they view as potential threats. They're trying to establish control over an entire region of the galaxy. Admiral Kang studied the data. If we can prove this to the Galactic Council, the Council approved the attack on us. Ambassador Park reminded her bitterly. Why would they care about these other species? Because they won't want to be next, Han said. The Vrelians are becoming too powerful. Eventually, they'll threaten even the established council members. But nobody wants to be the first to oppose them. Unless someone else goes first, Park said slowly, understanding. Unless we do. Exactly. We need to bring this evidence to the council directly. Force them to address it publicly. Kong shook her head. The council station is at the galactic core. That's months of travel through Vrelian-controlled space. We'd never make it. Han looked at his battered ship on the tactical display. The Defiant Dawn will make it. We've survived this long. We can survive a little longer. You're talking about leaving the battle, Kong said. We need every ship we have. And we need allies more, Han replied. Admiral, you can hold without us. You've been holding for 3 months? Hold a little longer. If we can turn the council against the Vrelians, this war might actually end. President Yoon Jie approved the mission within hours. Captain Han selected his fastest ships to accompany the Defiant Dawn. They would take Dr. Choi Hanna, who had been evacuated from New Busan, and all the intelligence they had gathered. Before they left, Han visited Admiral Kang on the Indomitable. How long can you hold? Kang looked tired. They all did. 3 months of constant fighting had aged everyone by years. As long as I have to, Captain. You just make sure those council bastards listen to you. I will. And Admiral, thank you for everything. Thank me when we win this war, Kong said. Now get out of here before I change my mind about letting you go. The journey to the galactic core was a nightmare. The Vrelian reinforcement fleet had established patrol routes throughout the region. Captain Oseojin and the Shadow Striker led the way, scouting ahead and finding safe passages. Twice they nearly ran into Vrelian patrols. Once they had to hide in an asteroid field for 2 days while enemy ships searched for them. But Captain Han's small fleet pushed forward, driven by desperate hope. Back at New Busan, Admiral Kang So-min faced the reinforced Vrelian fleet with her remaining ships. The fighting intensified. The Vrelians, angry and embarrassed by how long this was taking, pressed harder. Kim Tai-yang unveiled a new weapon, a massive railgun that could accelerate asteroids to incredible speeds. It was crude, expensive to fire, and took hours to reload. But when it hit, it could destroy even Vrelian battleships. It's a weapon of last resort, Tai-yang explained to Admiral Kang. We only have one. Once we fire it, the Vrelians will know where it is and destroy it. Save it then, Kang ordered. Save it for when we really need it. On New Busan's surface, Sergeant Ro Minho's defenders had fought the Vrelians to a standstill. The aliens controlled half the colony. The humans controlled the other half. Neither side could push forward without taking massive casualties. Dr. Choi. Hanna's EMP devices had become standard equipment. Every Marine carried them. They turned the battle into a strange kind of warfare where high technology met desperate improvisation. How much longer can we last? Corporal Han Xian asked Ro one night as they sheltered in a ruined building. Ro looked at his exhausted troops. Long enough? We just have to last long enough. For what? For someone to notice. For something to change? For a miracle? He smiled grimly. You know, the usual. Defiant Dawn reached the council station after 6 weeks of travel. The station was enormous, an artificial habitat that housed representatives from 47 different species. It was supposed to be neutral ground where conflicts could be resolved peacefully. Captain Han looked at it and felt bitter anger. This was where humanity's fate had been decided without them even knowing. This was where the council had quietly approved their subjugation. We're being hailed, Commander Lee reported. Station security wants to know our business? Tell them Captain Han Ji-ho requests an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Tell them I have evidence of Vrelian war crimes and plans for regional conquest. The response came back quickly. Request denied. The council is not in session. Please depart immediately. Han had expected this. Send a general broadcast to all species on the station. Maximum power. Make sure everyone hears it. Sir, that's against council protocols. Do it. The broadcast went out across all frequencies. This is Captain Han Ji-ho of the human vessel Defiant Dawn. For 3 months, my people have been fighting a war of survival against the Vrelian Dominion. A war that was sanctioned by this council. I have evidence that the Vrelians plan similar actions against other species. I demand to be heard. The station erupted in chaos. Within minutes, security vessels surrounded the defiant Dawn, but Han had achieved his goal. Every species on the station now knew a human was here. Claiming to have evidence of a conspiracy, the Council couldn't ignore that. Then something unexpected happened. A team of Vrelian assassins breached the station's neutral protocols and attempted to board the defiant Dawn. They wanted to kill Han before he could present his evidence. Marine Zhang Minseok, who had volunteered for Han's security detail, was the first to see them coming. Contact. Vrelian troops, main airlock. The fight was brief and brutal. The Vrelians were heavily armed and armored. But Zhang and his Marines had been fighting for 3 months. They knew every trick, every weakness in Vrelian equipment. Zhang personally held the main corridor while his team evacuated. Captain Han, he killed 3 Vrelians before plasma fire caught him. His last act was to detonate an EMP grenade that disabled the remaining Maslay attackers. He died saving his captain's life. The assassination attempt was the mistake the Vrelians couldn't afford to make. Attacking anyone on Council Station grounds was forbidden, a violation of the most sacred galactic laws. Now they couldn't deny Han his hearing. Counselor Prime Orith, the ancient leader of the Council, ordered an immediate full session. Every species would attend. Every species would hear what humanity had to say. Ambassador Park prepared Han for the hearing. This is your chance. Maybe our only chance. The Vrelians will argue that you're lying, that you're desperate, that your evidence is fabricated. You need to be perfect. Han thought about Zhang Minseok, who had died protecting him. He thought about Commander Bai Hunhua, who had sacrificed himself to save civilians. He thought about all the humans who had fallen in 3 months of war. I'll be honest, he said simply. That's all I can be. The council chamber was massive. Representatives from 47 civilizations filled the space. At the center, on a throne that seemed carved from starlight itself, sat Counselor Prime Orith. He was so old that some species considered him more myth than reality. Supreme. Commander Vrelix was there too, connected by a hologram from his flagship. His face was a mask of rage barely contained. Captain Han Jiho stood in the center of it all. One human against the gathered powers of the galaxy. Dr. Choi Hanna stood beside him, ready to present their evidence. Orith's voice was ancient and tired. Captain Han Jiho, you have made serious accusations. You will now present your evidence. Han activated the display. Images and data filled the chamber. Intercepted Vrelian communications. Attack plans for 6 other species. Resource allocation showing years of preparation. Financial records proving the Vrelians had bribed or threatened Council members to approve their actions. The evidence was overwhelming. The chamber filled with shocked whispers and angry growls. This is fabrication. Vrelix shouted. The desperate lies of a defeated species. Then explain these communication codes, Dr. Choi said calmly. They're Vrelian military encryption. We've broken them. We can prove authenticity. Explain why you're targeting these 6 species, Han added. What threat does the peaceful Denari civilization pose to anyone? They're explorers and scholars, unless your definition of threat is simply anyone who might someday question your authority. The chamber erupted in arguments. Species shouted at each other. Accusations flew. The careful order the Council had maintained for millennia was fracturing. Han let them argue for a moment, and spoke again. His voice cut through the chaos. You call us young? You call us dangerous? You call us unpredictable. But we are also courageous. We are innovative. We are free. We asked only to be left alone to find our place among the stars. Instead, you permitted predators to hunt us because you feared we might upset your comfortable order. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from dozens of species. If that is what your order requires, the subjugation of the weak, the silencing of the different, then your order deserves to fall. The chamber fell silent. Even Vrelix had no response to that. Counselor Prime Orith leaned forward. For the first time in centuries, he looked truly interested in what was happening before him. The council will vote, he announced. on whether to sanction the Varelian Dominion and order immediate ceasefire? The vote took 3 days. Captain Han Ji-ho waited on the defiant dawn, while the galaxy's powers debated humanity's fate. He spent the time writing letters to the families of his fallen crew members. There were so many letters to write. Back at New Busan, Admiral Kung So-min didn't know about the council proceedings. She only knew that the Varelian attacks had intensified. They were throwing everything at the human defenders now, as if sensing the war might soon slip away from them. "Admiral, we're down to 31 operational ships," her tactical officer reported. "We can't hold much longer." "We'll hold until we can't anymore," Kong said firmly. "Every hour we survive is another hour for humanity." On the surface, Sergeant Rominho's defenders were being pushed back street by street. They were running out of ammunition, out of supplies, out of hope. But they kept fighting. "Sergeant, why are we still here?" a young private asked during a brief lull in the fighting. "Everyone we knew is probably dead. The colony is destroyed. What are we fighting for?" Ro looked at the ruined buildings around them, at the smoke rising from a dozen fires. "We're fighting so that when this is over, we can say we never gave up. We're fighting because that's what humans do. We don't quit." The private nodded slowly. Okay, I can do that," Goodrow said. "Because here they come again." At the council station, the debate had become fierce. Some species supported humanity. Others supported the Varelians. Many tried to avoid taking any position at all. Ambassador Park watched the proceedings from the observation gallery. She was exhausted. 3 months of war had taught her that politics could be just as deadly as combat. A Silveri representative approached her quietly. The serpentine species were known for their cunning and their long memories. "Your captain spoke well," the Silveri said. "But speaking well may not be enough." "What do you mean?" Park asked. "The Varelians are powerful. Many species fear them. Even if the council votes for sanctions, enforcing those sanctions would require force. Who will commit their fleets to fight the Dominion?" Park felt her heart sink. "You're saying even if we win the vote, we might not win the war?" "I'm saying that votes are easy. Action is hard." Silveri looked at her with ancient eyes. "But I'm also saying that your species has already done something remarkable. You've made the galaxy think. You've shown that the strong can be defied. That's worth something. Is it worth all the lives we've lost?" Park asked bitterly. "That's not for me to judge," the Silvari said. "But I suspect your fallen would say yes." On the 3rd day, Councillor Prime Orith called for the final vote. The chamber was packed. Every species had sent their representatives. The galaxy held its breath. "The question before us is simple," Orith said. His ancient voice carried throughout the chamber. "Did the Varelian Dominion violate council law by attacking humanity without proper authorization? And should we enforce an immediate ceasefire?" The votes were cast electronically. Captain Han watched the display as numbers climbed. His hands were shaking. 20 species voted yes. 15 voted no. 12 abstained. The motion passed. By a narrow margin, the Galactic Council had ruled against the Varelians. But then Supreme Commander Varelic spoke. "The Dominion rejects this decision. We will not withdraw from human space. And we will not accept Council authority over our internal military decisions. If the Council attempts to enforce this ruling, we will leave the Council entirely." Other powerful species echoed his threat. The Council was fracturing in real time. Councillor Primorith stood. For the first time in the proceedings, he showed anger. For 10,000 years, this Council has maintained peace. For 10,000 years, we have resolved conflicts through law and debate, not force. The Varelian Dominion threatens to destroy all of that over their pride. "It's not pride," Vrelic said coldly. "It's necessity. Humanity is dangerous. They must be controlled before they become a threat to everyone." "They are dangerous," Orith agreed. "But not in the way you think." He gestured and a holographic display appeared, showing the Battle of New Busan, ships fighting and dying, human and Vrelian vessels locked in desperate combat. Humanity is dangerous because they refuse to accept subjugation. They are dangerous because they value freedom more than survival. They are dangerous because they fight with a desperation that comes from having everything to lose. Orith looked around the chamber, and that makes them the most dangerous enemy you could have chosen. He turned to Vrelix. You have two choices, Commander. Withdraw your fleets immediately, or the Council will enforce a ceasefire by force. And yes, that may destroy the Council. But it will also destroy your dominion. Are you willing to pay that price? The chamber fell silent. Everyone waited for Vrelix's response. After a long moment, the Vrelian commander spoke. His voice was filled with hate. The Dominion will withdraw. But this is not over, humans. This is not over. The transmission ended. Captain Han collapsed into his chair. It was done. The war was over. They had one. Somehow, impossibly, they had one. Get me a channel to Admiral Kung, he said. Tell her to cease fire. Tell her. Tell her we did it. At New Busan, Admiral Kung received the message and couldn't believe it. She made them repeat it 3 times. Then she broadcast across all human frequencies. All ships, cease fire. The Galactic Council has ordered a ceasefire. The Vrelians are withdrawing. The war is over. We've won. Human fleet erupted in cheers. Ships that had been fighting for 3 months, that were barely held together by welds and prayers, celebrated with what little energy they had left. On the surface, Sergeant Rowe heard the news and sat down hard. He had been standing for so long that his legs gave out. Around him, his Marines were crying and laughing at the same time. We did it, Corporal Han Sion said in disbelief. We actually did it. No, Rowe said quietly. They did it. All the ones who didn't make it to see this moment. They did it. The Vrelian fleet withdrew over the next week. Supreme Commander Vrelix kept his word, but his parting message was clear. This is not the end, humans. One day, we will return. And next time, there will be no council to protect you. Let them come, Admiral Kong said when she heard that. We'll be ready. The final casualty count was devastating. 67 ships destroyed. 8 colonies damaged or destroyed. 1.3 million humans dead in 3 months of fighting. The cost of defiance had been terrible, but humanity was free. Captain Han Ji-ho returned to Earth 3 months after leaving. The Defiant Dawn barely made it home. The ship was more patches than original hull now, a patchwork vessel held together by the skill of Chief Engineer Nam and his team. President Yoon Jie met him personally at the spaceport. She looked older too. The war had aged everyone. Captain Han, on behalf of humanity, I thank you. I didn't do it alone, Madam President. I had help from everyone. Thought of all the faces he would never see. Gain from too many people. The memorial service was held on Earth's moon. 1.3 million names carved into black stone. Captain Han stood before them and gave a speech he had written and rewritten 100 times. We did not fight for glory. We fought because we had no choice. These people died so that humanity could choose its own destiny. They died so that our children could grow up free. Remember them. Remember what they gave us. The galaxy changed after the war. Humanity was no longer seen as a minor species. Some civilizations respected them now. Others feared them. The Galactic Council itself had been weakened by the crisis. Its authority questioned for the first time in millennia. Ambassador Park began building a coalition of younger species. Those who had watched humanity stand and been inspired by it. We don't have to accept the old order, she told them. We can build something better. Dr. Choi Hanna freely shared all the technology humanity had developed during the war. The EMP devices, the tactical innovations, the weapon systems. If we help others defend themselves, maybe we can prevent future wars like this one. Kim Tae-young was promoted to lead Earth's military research. His innovations had proven that human creativity could compete with ancient alien technology. We'll never be the strongest, he said, but we can be the smartest. We can be the most adaptable. Admiral Kong Soman became Earth's supreme military commander. She began a massive rebuilding program, designing new ships and training new crews. The Vrelians said they'd return one day. When they do, we'll be ready. And we won't be alone next time. War correspondent Kwon Ji-woo had broadcast the entire war to the galaxy. Her reports had made Captain Han famous across dozens of civilizations. Some species created stories and songs about the human captain, who had said no to the gods. Han himself retired from active military service. He couldn't command anymore, couldn't give orders that might send people to their deaths. He had done enough of that. He visited the memorials often. The one on Earth's moon, the one at New Busan, where Sergeant Rowe had survived, but so many others hadn't. The one in deep space where the Iron Tiger had fallen, where Commander Bae-Hun Wo had given everything. "I'm sorry I lived when you didn't," he would say to the names carved in stone. "I hope what we've built is worth what you paid." 5 years passed. The galaxy adjusted to its new reality. Humanity had proven themselves, but the war had left scars on everyone. New Busan was rebuilt, but it would never be the same. The families of the fallen grieved, but they also took pride in what had been accomplished. Captain Han, now an elder statesman, was invited to speak at the military academy. Young ensigns wanted to hear from the man who had defied the Vrelian dominion. He agreed reluctantly. One young woman approached him after the speech. She couldn't have been more than 20, fresh-faced and eager. "Sir, I just wanted to say that you're my hero. You showed the galaxy that humanity won't kneel." Han smiled sadly. "I'm no hero, ensign. I was just someone who was there when history needed someone to stand up." "That's what makes you a hero, sir," she said. "Do you have any advice for my generation?" Han looked at her young face and thought about everything he had seen, everything he had lost, everything humanity had gained. The galaxy believed we would kneel. We proved them wrong. But winning one battle doesn't mean the war's over. Stay vigilant. Stay united. And never forget we bow to no one. The young ensign saluted and walked away. Han watched her go and felt something like hope. Above Earth, a new generation of human warships patrolled the borders. They were stronger than the Defiant Dawn had been, better armed, more advanced. Captain Oseo-jin commanded one of them, the Shadow Striker II. Kim Taeyang's new weapons were integrated into their design. Admiral Kong's tactical doctrines guided their training. Humanity had paid the price for defiance, but they had also learned from it. They had grown stronger, more united, more determined to protect what they had won. And across the galaxy, other young species watched and learned. They saw that the powerful could be defied. They saw that freedom was worth fighting for. They saw that sometimes the impossible could be achieved. Captain Han stood on Earth, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Verilians were rebuilding and planning. Somewhere out there, other threats were emerging. The galaxy was still dangerous, still full of species that would see humanity as lesser. But humanity had proven something, that 3 months of blood and fire had written in letters the galaxy could not ignore. They had proven that they were not prey. They were not subjects. They were not servants. They were humanity, and they bowed to no one. The stars shone down on Earth with cold, distant light, but they no longer seemed so far away. Humanity had reached out and touched them, had fought for their place among them, had earned their right to be there. The war was over. The peace had been won. But the story of humanity among the stars was just beginning, and this time they would write it themselves.